Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. This is a great day for Lackawanna County and a great day for baseball in Lackawanna County. I just want to introduce a few special people who are here today. Katie Beekman, the Rail Riders General Manager, Frank Tunis, the Solicitor for the Multi-Purpose Stadium Authority of Lackawanna County, Craig Schmidt, the Project Architect, Mike Vinn, the Managing Director of FSL Public Financing, Scott Germer, Construction Manager for EC Build, and Brian Kozlansky, Bond Counsel for Stevens and Lee. We're also very honored to have Tony Bruno, who is the Senior Vice President and CFO of the New York Yankees. I also want to recognize the Stadium Authority members, Mike Bartoletti, Kevin O'Shea, who's here today. Kevin was the MVP for the Manuka Little League in 1992, so I wanted to make sure I mentioned that. Thanks, Kevin. J.R. Reifus is with us today. Paul Doherty and Kenny Mikovits. They've all done an outstanding job along with Frank Tunis to make this project and this announcement today a reality. So welcome everyone to beautiful PNC Field, which is owned by the Multi-Purpose Stadium Authority of Lackawanna County and is home to the Scranton-Wilkes-Barre Rail Riders, the AAA affiliate of the New York Yankees. We're excited today to announce a major project to not only modernize PNC Field to enhance the player and fan experience, but to ensure the ongoing long-term presence of high-level professional baseball in northeastern Pennsylvania. As you know, the Rail Riders in this great stadium have been a vital part of Lackawanna County in northeastern Pennsylvania for more than 30 years, and we'd be remiss if we didn't acknowledge former Commissioners Joe Corcoran and Ray Alberici, along with John McGee, for the reason that we're standing here today, along with a lot of other people. Over those 30 years, the baseball business has changed. That's why the authority undertook the major reconstruction project in 2012 that resulted in the modern, fan-friendly stadium that we have today. It's also why it's time for the authority to undertake a further stadium modernization, which is absolutely necessary.
Major League Baseball has established a series of strict new facility standards that must be implemented in all minor league stadiums over the next few years. Those standards are meant to improve safety and accommodations for players and teams. Just as important is that the standards account for a major and very positive change within the baseball industry. When this stadium was built more than 30 years ago, and even when it was just reconfigured just over a decade ago, very few women were involved in professional baseball in any capacity. Now, women are heavily engaged in the game and the business. There are many female umpires, trainers, and even coaches. And women executives and staff regularly accompany the teams that visit PNC Field. The new standards appropriately require modern, separate facilities for women umpires, trainers, and staff. Failure to comply with these major league standards could have dire consequences, including the loss of a AAA franchise, which would jeopardize the substantial public investment already made in PNC Field. Relative to the new major league standards, PNC has deficiencies regarding facility security, female staff facilities, clubhouse, training and locker rooms, laundry facilities, batting tunnels, bullpens, high-speed internet access, field drainage, and field lighting.
So to ensure the future of professional baseball in the region and to improve the experience for everyone at PNC Field, the Stadium Authority will undertake a $13.5 million project to meet the Major League Baseball facility standards and to upgrade the stadium even beyond those standards. The Stadium Authority will finance $7 million of the project with an $8.5 million bond issue through PNC Bank, $1.5 million of which will be held in a debt reserve. The Stadium Authority also has filed an application with the State Department of Community and Economic Development for a $6.5 million redevelopment capital assistance program grant. We want to emphasize that no money from the Lackawanna County Government's General Fund will be used to execute this project. The annual bond payment will be $1.2 million. We will authorize the continued use of the 60% of the annual revenue from the county's hotel occupancy tax, about $600,000 a year, for half of the annual payment. The other $600,000 of the annual payment will come from the Scranton-Wilkes-Barre Rail Riders lease payment to the Stadium Authority. The county's commitment of the hotel occupancy tax is not a loan guarantee, so it does not put any other county funds at risk.
It's also important to note that under the lease agreement, which was created in 2012 to facilitate the reconstruction of the stadium, the authority is obligated to pay $12 million into a stadium capital improvement fund in 2027. This project, in effect, simply moves up that $12 million commitment by 3 years. Therefore, the project we're announcing today fulfills the authority's longstanding commitment to maintaining and upgrading the stadium to meet the highest standards. We commend the Stadium Authority, its solicitor Frank Tunis, its architects, and financial consultants for devising a plan that is comprehensive yet affordable. Because of that good work, we look forward to many more years of exciting Rail Riders baseball here at soon-to-be state-of-the-art PNC Field. I'd like to now introduce our solicitor for the Stadium Authority, Mr. Frank Tunis. Thanks, Frank.
Thank you. Thanks, Frank. Good job.
Thank you, everybody. I want to thank all the members of the media for being here. But most importantly, I'd like to thank the 3 county commissioners sitting up here for their continued support of this project in minor league baseball in northeastern Pennsylvania. Both the commissioners and my board, who the commissioners mentioned, have been long committed and dedicated to ensuring that we have one of the nicest minor league ballparks in all of Lackawanna County and in the United States. I also think it's important to emphasize how important it is to have such a wonderful public-private partnerships with the Rail Riders and the New York Yankees. Peter Freund, through his ownership group and Diamond Baseball Holdings, is committed to making this one of the nicest experiences in minor league ballparks in the country. I also want to thank Katie Beekman and her team for a wonderful job that they do operating this wonderful facility on a nightly basis. And I want to also thank Tony Bruno, who was nice enough to travel from those cold conditions in Tampa to be with us here today. Tony has been committed to this project since day one, and I think that he and the New York Yankees are committed to the presence of professional baseball in northeastern Pennsylvania for a long time to come. They have been our partner for about 2 decades now. We look forward to their continued partnership. I want to just talk a little bit about how we got to this point. As the commissioner said, minor league baseball has changed dramatically since the onset of COVID in 2020. Major League Baseball has essentially taken over minor league baseball. And in doing so, they implemented a new set of facility standards that place a high emphasis on player safety and the inclusion of females in sports. And so that's why we got here today. So they appointed a firm to go around the country to inspect and grade all the minor league ballparks, starting with AAA, AA, and AAA. And all those minor league ballparks get a grade. And there's certain things that if you're deficient in, you have to become compliant in, and you have a period of years to sort of phase in those improvements. With us here is Craig Schmidt from Ewing Cole. His firm was the firm hired by Major League Baseball to go around the country to evaluate these stadiums. And Craig Schmidt, you might know Craig. Craig was our design professional over a decade ago when we designed and built this wonderful facility that you see here. His team has done a tremendous job. So Craig actually did a score of our system, and Craig has implemented a program for us to become compliant with all these new standards through this current project. Also with us today is Scott Gomer from EC Build. He's our construction management for the project. Scott and Craig will be here after I speak to answer any questions you guys might have. Although you look around, it looks like there's really, the stadium is A-class. 10 years ago, you can't see the things that haven't been done under the lower seating bowl. And as the commissioners referenced, there's many things that need to be upgraded, starting with the inclusion of women's facilities at the stadium. Also, we've been working very closely with our state and local representatives and senators, as the commissioners mentioned, and working with the governor's office to try to get funding for this wonderful project. So I won't go into the funding because they cover that. But at this point, I want to introduce to you who I just mentioned, Craig Schmidt. Craig is our design professional for the project, and he's going to say a couple words about the project. Craig?
Thank you, Frank. It's an honor and a joy to be back here 12 years later after we renovated this facility in 2012. It's fun to see some familiar faces as well. Yeah, I think, someone's papers are flying all over here. I think to emphasize a few things that Frank and others said, these standards that Major League Baseball issued are really important to elevate the game, to bring more inclusion into baseball, to modernize the facilities. You know, the sport of baseball, and all sports for that matter, have changed so much. They're constantly changing, evolving. Standards for health and fitness, recovery, and inclusion. And a couple things to note, you know, Frank mentioned inclusion for women in the sport. It's important to note that here they've chosen to voluntarily exceed the standards for inclusion of women. There's only a requirement in the standards that there be one locker room that can be shared by female staff, whether they be an umpire or a coach or a trainer. But in this case, they had the foresight to realize that's not enough. So we're implementing female facilities for the visiting team, for the umpires, as well as the home team. So far exceeding the standards. And they're doing that across the boards in many places as well. For training rooms for the players, dining facilities for the players. It's no longer a standard or accepted that players would eat at their folding chair at their locker with a meal on their lap after a game or pre-game. Now there's actually dining facilities that are more more cleanliness and better food options. So these are some of the things that are being implemented in these renovations, and happy to answer any questions following this press conference when we do the tour.
Okay, at this time we'll take any questions that any of the media has. Donnie?
So we're looking to start the project on September 15th, right at the end of the current baseball season. Everything is in place to hopefully have the project done before the start of the next baseball season. So we've been working hard on this for the last few months. So with our design professionals, we hope to have all the bid packages out over the next few months. So we're ready to have a shovel in the ground on September 15th.
Yeah, so the new standards are rolled out in 2020, and the deadline for compliance is April of 2025. So every team is on their own time frame to get there. You know, it's all dependent on financing and other factors related to, you know, implementing, drawing up plans and having them constructed. But we're right on schedule in this project to be done by next April. No, pretty much most of these renovations are things that are behind the scenes, player related. You'll see some changes to the outside of the stadium upon driving up to park your car, but pretty much everything else will look the same from a fan perspective.
There are a few other projects that we've been talking to the Yankees about as far as the fan amenity experience goes. Hopefully, we're looking to do those projects after the completion of this project, but we wanted to make sure that we got this project done first, so we're fully compliant with Major League Baseball. So we're devoting all of our energy to that right now. But in collaboration with Diamond Baseball Holdings and the Yankees, we are looking at doing some other fan-friendly experiences that the fans can see and experience.
Yeah, the lighting upgrades will be down the road at this point. I think the lights are currently compliant, but they'll be upgraded.
So, as Frank said, I've been involved in this since the beginning. And the thing that was most telling to me when I first arrived, we didn't have the female facilities. And I asked Katie, where are they changing now? And she said the females have to change with the mascots. And I don't have daughters, but I instantly realized how I would feel if I was so proud of my daughter for being a pioneer in this sport, and then to be relegated to have to change and get ready for a game with the mascot. And I knew then that we really had a lot to do. And that's before we even went down into the clubhouse and realized that the players were stretching next to the food tables, and that the weight rooms were in the visitors' clubhouse, and that there just really wasn't the space. The Yankee organization is very proud of this relationship, this beautiful ballpark. I was here for opening day in 2012, and as Frank said, we touched everything back then that's visible to the fans, and I think that's appropriate. But what was really never touched was what happens underneath and gets the players ready. This, unfortunately, of all of our facilities, of all of our affiliates, was the lowest scoring affiliate. We have affiliates, as you know, in Somerset and in Hudson Valley and in Tampa. So this facility being our highest level, it was important that we bring it up to standards so that we're comfortable to send our players that are right on the verge of making it to the major leagues. So it was very clear that this work had to be done. The numbers on the scoring were indicative of how far behind the facility was, and the stadium authority, led by Frank's leadership, really acknowledged it as well, and we've been on a terrific collaboration to make this work. We've dedicated our resources to our player development and our baseball ops that have seen every facility around the country to make sure that not only are we proud of what we're presenting to our players, but this community will be proud of an A-rated top facility in all of minor league baseball. Yes?
How important is the Yankees training rooms to get done?
Yeah, and I think I've heard it mentioned a few times how the game has changed. And we're putting our most valuable assets here so that to have them conditioned properly, to have them in an environment, to get them ready to play is of utmost importance. You'll have one of our top prospects, if not our top prospect, will be back here tonight, and we didn't want him to be stepping down in facilities when he rises up in level of play and is on the verge of being in the major leagues. So it's extremely important for us to have a facility to accommodate the players' needs and the continued development that they'll need to make it to the major leagues.
Is the idea also that if the best trainer is a woman, you want her to be a trainer?
Absolutely. We've been leaders in this space throughout our organization, and I know I don't want to speak on behalf of ownership, but I know I can speak on behalf of ownership, is that we're proud of that record, and to make sure our facilities can accommodate that, it is important to us.
Somebody else talk about some of the other changes besides what's going to happen in the locker rooms besides the inclusion part?
Do you have a specific question related to the facilities?
No, just like, can you give me what exactly you're doing? Like, Mr. Bruno mentioned that the players were stretching next to the food table. So you're not going to do that anymore? And how are you going to make sure?
Sure. So to that point, we're building a 600 square foot dining facility for the players with commercial grade equipment, kitchen appliances. We're tripling the size of the weight room, approximately 2,500 square feet will be the new weight room. We're modernizing their hitting tunnels. The Yankees are, deploy some pretty high-tech equipment for training and coaching their players in the hitting tunnels, both pitching and hitting. We've got modern training facilities in the training room now with hydrotherapy equipment, larger space, larger facilities. The coaches' locker rooms, just building out more space for the ever-increasing.
Make a difference in terms of the way the stadium looks from the outside, or can you fit it all in underneath?
Well, we're adding a 5,000 square foot addition to the home clubhouse over here. No addition to the visitors' locker room, though, that you would see outward, but we are doing some internal renovations inside. But there is one new, brand new standalone building on the visitor side over here, which would be 2 new hitting tunnels. So now the home and visiting team have their own distinct hitting tunnels. Same thing, the visiting team will have their own weight room. These, by the way, some of these things I'm mentioning are all above and beyond the facilities standards. So not just meeting the standards, but going beyond. Any questions?
In addition to Katie Beekman, who else, living-wise, is going to be helping make sure that, it's also something that they would like?
Well, we're constantly getting feedback from the Yankees and their staff. Yeah, we have weekly calls with them. We get their input. We rely on their input, frankly, for what their needs are. So. Yeah. Yeah, Frank wanted me to mention that our design team, architects, interior designers, is not just made up of males either. So we have females on the staff, and we turn to them at times and say, well, what would a female want in the locker room that would be different than a male? And that feedback's invaluable. Thank you.
Do a walkthrough?
Okay, thank you, everybody. We're going to do a walkthrough now of the stadium, and I also want to thank Pat McKenna, our communications coordinator, and Kristen O'Malley, who's done a really good job, our digital communications coordinator. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.